We are good. So this week I am absolutely delighted to be joined by David Jones and Rebecca Sykes from Brand Tech. So we've got David, CEO, and Rebecca, who is the head of emerging tech at Brand Tech Group. So David, Becky, great to see you both. Thanks so much for jumping on. How are you both doing?
Very well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Brilliant.
I'm good, Tom. I'm in our brand new Paris office today as well, so super exciting.
Amazing. Wonderful stuff. Well, look, we are here today because we're all very excited to be letting the world know that we have now delivered a whopping 5 million ads. I believe whopping is the correct term for a 5 million ad milestone, which has been quite a journey, and I think certainly something that we want to celebrate. So I want to ask you guys about, we've got various different things to talk about, but I think Brand Tech was, as you both know, the company that really took a big bet on AI early on, called this revolution early, and it's really been incredible how it's played out. So, I mean, David, why don't I come to you first? 5 million ads later, what do you think you got right, and what do you think you got wrong about your predictions for AI way back when?
So look, I mean, I think, and maybe it's worth just doing like 30 seconds on the history of the company. So yeah. My failure is one of the best-selling case studies at Harvard Business School. And that failure told the story of, I was running a big public listed comms group. I thought the creator economy was going to be huge. And I thought the best way of disrupting the big group I was running would be to buy the world's first and largest creator economy company and then use that to disrupt and say, hey, the creator economy is going to be huge. And basically, without going into the detail, the reason the case study is so successful, and it's very relevant for today, it says how hard change is. And despite the fact that my investors thought it was a great idea and my clients loved it, most people who worked with me thought I was really stupid because they're like, hang on, David, and you've got to think back to like 2010. We've got a creative department, we're supposed to sell them for a lot of money to clients, and you're saying everyone can create. And my answer at the time was, well, if you think everyone is going to be able to create, aren't you better to kind of be on the right side of that? And I just back in 2015 thought that AI and tech was going to have exactly the same kind of disruption, and that rather than trying to change a big company, it would be a good idea to build a company from scratch with that as its founding belief. And that founding belief was that you could do all marketing better, faster, and cheaper using technology and AI. So I would say, big picture to answer your question, I think that founding belief was very accurate 10 years on. And then I think, what did we get wrong? I mean, we're still so embryonic, but I think, if you sort of said to me, the speed with which it changed between 2015 and like 2023 was kind of like super incremental and slow. And then the speed with which it has changed in 2025 is mind-blowing. So I didn't honestly think we would be doing, if you'd have said to me in January this year, will we do high quality voice to camera videos with AI? No, we won't be doing that yet. And I think, it's the speed with which it's getting better now, which is the thing that I think super exciting.
Yeah, 100%. And so, Becky, you're seeing this every day. So if we come to you, like, how are you seeing this change in like the day-to-day inside teams, people that are working like at the coal face is probably not the right term for AI, but like, how are you seeing like creative teams changing like before our eyes on a day-to-day level?
They're changing in every conceivable way, I think. It isn't an exaggeration to say that AI as a horizontal, not a vertical, really does impact every single part of the way that we go to market, the way that we build brands, the way that we develop new brands. Everything about the way that we market is different. And I think it should look entirely different to the way it did pre-AI. This intelligence era collapses a lot of the paradigms that meant we structured ourselves in particular ways. Things took time, and now those time lags have kind of collapsed. You had silos between creative, media, and data, and you didn't necessarily, although we tried, we wanted to, you couldn't cross-pollinate. And now those things are collapsing. The right data is just where you need it at the right moment, and you've got kind of near real-time ability. So that should change the way we do everything. We should start briefing through intelligence. Maybe we don't start with people, maybe we start with tech. Like it does require new skills, new ways of working. So in the most successful companies that I work with, I think it's changing everything.
100%.
And I just need to build on what Becky said. What Becky and her teams are just exceptional at is that transformation piece. I think every single major client brand we talk to, even the most advanced ones are saying how hard the transformation is and how hard the change is. And I think, everybody knows now just how good the technology is, but it's the humans and the changing the humans and the changing the processes and systems that's super hard. And I think, that's one of Becky's superpowers and why we're leading in the space.
100%. And so I would just say very quickly, I can see we're getting lots of viewers coming in. If you've got questions, we're going to try to leave some time for Q&A at the end. Drop them into the LinkedIn event, into the comments, and we'll try to get your questions over to David and Becky. So you mentioned the tech there. I want to come on and talk about the people behind it as well in a minute. But obviously, we're here as Pencil, brand tech and Pencil. So David, could I come to you and ask about how you first came across Pencil and what that journey has been like with Pencil founders, Will and Sumuk? How did you first meet? What's the journey been?
I mean, we got invested in cheaper using technology. Can you guys hear me?
I think your connection might be a little bit patchy. I can.
In 2015,
I can hear you okay. Yeah, we can't see you too well, but I can hear you all right. Okay, I think maybe the signal's gone in the new Paris HQ.
Brand new Paris office, yeah.
Yeah. Classic. The joys of live streaming. It's always an adventure. So look, Becky, why don't I come to you with the same question then? Obviously, you've been with the company for a long time. What's the journey been like with Pencil, integrating into a wider group, introducing to clients? How's that been?
Amazing, actually. I think what Will and Sumuk have done so incredibly well was to build something where they've acid tested absolutely everything in the market. They firmly believe in getting out there and making content fast, engaging early, and getting people creating. So the testament to having made 5 million ads, a huge amount of that is has been experimental and pushing things out into the world to be able to test and to learn. So that ethos, that way of working, is something really special that has stayed and evolved and really been adopted as Pencil has joined kind of brand tech. So that's been really incredible. And I think that when you've got the depth of experience that Pencil has in making real world AI created content and seeing its performance and what changes and what tracks, then there's just so much to absorb from that experience and kind of make safe for enterprise users. So that was our real goal as Pencil joined brand tech, was to take everything that was brilliant about Pencil and make it applicable to enterprise users.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the word that I keep coming back to when I think about AI marketing is scale, right? It's, obviously we're here talking about 5 million ads being delivered. Yeah. It's a scale that really was just not possible in a pre-AI world, right? Yeah. Like we are just able to do so much more now. So what do you think, like what does creativity look like in brands, in agencies, when we're talking about millions of assets rather than tens or hundreds of assets?
Yeah, I think it will be entirely different. The way I frame this for myself is that it becomes tech first versus tech enabled. So there will always be very high craft elements of creativity that you really labor over, and not to take those away. Welcome back, David.
Welcome back,
David. But I think also as you get into more of a tech first way of working, you absolutely have to start with tech. There is no way that we create tens of thousands, millions of assets where a person begins with a single brief, crafting one by one as we go, and the craft comes first, and then we look at versioning and scaling. We will be looking at tech to identify the patterns, the insight, find the critical kind of inflection points for consumers, and then start by chaining together agents or resources to enable you to get to a first pass at that content. And it's going to start with the tech and be curated and shaped by people. So I think that fundamental inversion is a huge part of what comes at massive scale.
That bit about the versioning and like using feeds, using agents inside feeds, and just being able to drag a box, and then all of a sudden you've got all of your different SKUs or all of your different versions of a similar piece of content, is the thing that when I started with Pencil, is the thing that's blown my mind since, having been in marketing for like 10 years. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that front.
I think it's not the what it does, because the what it does is like, whatever, it gets insights and comes up with ideas and creates content and distributes that content. It's the how it does it.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it just does that instantaneously at infinite scale.
Yeah. And so a question's come back to you, David. When you are speaking with clients or contacts around the industry, there's obviously so much news now and so many different platforms who have got different releases coming out. It seems like every week there's a new update to the latest frontier model. How can people within brands like make sense of this like news landscape where there is so much going on?
So look, I think the first answer to anyone who says, I'm struggling to keep up, what's the secret, is it's just really hard to keep up. I mean, we're dealing with something that is moving at such a pace. I mean, I've been in a plane for, coming over from New York for 24 hours. I'm pretty certain something happened that I don't know about. So I think the first thing is just like park that to one side and just kind of go, you can't keep across everything. I think when it comes to the technology that you are, working with and choosing, I think, and obviously some of this plays into what is Pencil's superpower. But in a world where you have no idea what's going to be the best model for doing something in a year or two, you want to be able to aggregate all of the best and greatest models rather than picking one. Because already in the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen positions change quite a lot. And so I would say don't go all in on one model and one bucket. So, Pencil's obviously one of its superpowers is it aggregates all of the latest and greatest from Nano Banana, VO2, VO3, ChatGPT, Adobe Firefly, Runway, etc. And I think that's really important. And then I think the next thing I would say is also just on a personal level, be super curious. When anything new comes out, just go play with it. And to be clear, don't upload confidential company information to the new thing that's just come out, but just because if you don't play with it, you don't know what it does well, what it doesn't do well, and you're always reliant on someone else. So those would sort of be three. I can unpack a lot more of the specifics around the tech platform side, but number one, don't worry, it's moving so fast you can't be across everything. Number two, don't make decisions that are one-way doors that you can't come back from, because it's all moving so fast. And number three, just be personally curious so you can have your own view about this rather than relying on someone else.
100%. And if I may, I'll add a number 4, which is make sure you're signed up to the Pencil newsletter and you can get all of the latest in your inbox every single week.
Of course, John. Sorry, I forgot that one.
It's okay. We've only started them up again quite recently, but they're going very well. So anybody watching, make sure you're dropping your email. You can sign up on the website. So listen, one thing that it feels like we're talking about every single week on this stream, but I think people want to hear about and understand in the advertising industry in particular, is this idea of AI being a collaborator rather than a replacement, and how that relationship works. And it's a source of anxiety for people, but I think it's also a source of great excitement. So Becky, if I come to you, how do you think about effective human AI collaboration inside the teams that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has recently been even further exacerbated by the advent of agents, because now we have so much more of this collaboration. So whether we're talking about kind of human to human collaboration, human to AI, AI to AI, like there's so many different ways now. And I think for me, as we get our heads around the idea that workforces will be part human, part agentic, you might have a team of X number of individuals and Y number of agents. It's really just making sure that the handshakes are really smooth, so that when we pass over responsibility for a piece of a workflow or the way we're working, the data is already where you need it, that the AI can provoke you or check you or start for you, that as the human, maybe you shape the AI or hold it back or expand the canvas. There's all of this kind of smoothness to the way that we work, just as you would with a different team member. Like, I really love working with that person. They always push me a bit harder or get to something different. So I think just making sure that those handovers are really smooth is part of how the collaboration works really well.
Have you got anything to add there, David? I mean, how do you think about the creative process?
I think, one of, like, humans have huge fears, like sharks are one of them, AI taking over the world is another and taking our jobs. Look, we're very optimistic. I mean, Pencil is called Pencil, as you know, because it's designed to be used by humans. And we think we're going to see the greatest creative revolution in history. I was lucky enough to be invited to an event last week, and both Edward Norton and Jeffrey Katzenberg were there, both talking about how we're living in the world of the most incredible storytelling tools thanks to AI. And I think what I would encourage people to do is get out of the mindset of, is it either an incredible human being who's only ever had brilliant ideas and never comes up with something average, or this terrible AI slop that all looks the same and is over. It's like, no, you as a human now have the most incredible creative partner, in inverted commas, with Gen AI, and just go use that. I mean, you don't need to wait. You can have an idea and you can see what it looks like today. You don't need to wait 9 months, and you might find the 10 ideas that in the old world you would take 9 months and you could only pick one. You can look at all of those in the next 36, 48 hours and realize that actually that one was better. So my analogy is it's like cars. We as humans still walk, even though we have the car. But we can just go to so many more places because we have a car. So you can decide just to walk, or you can get in a car. And I think it's an incredible superpower. The other stupid analogy I use is like, if you gave everybody who's dialed into this call a tennis racket, and you gave Roger Federer a tennis racket, you're going to see quite a different result in the way they use that. And AI is much more powerful than a tennis racket. And so the best humans will always do a much better job with the best AI tools. But it's also, to me, inconceivable that AI isn't more creative than humans in the future. And as long as you're excited about enhancing that rather than feel threatened, you're going to have a fantastic career.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting thought. Do you have like a time horizon, like where you feel confident in your predictions? Because we were talking about predictions earlier, and obviously you called it very right 10 years ago. Do you have a time horizon beyond which you're just not confident anymore about where it's going to go and you don't know? Or like, what's your kind of calibration on predicting?
No, it's like the Vic Reeves quote, 89.2% of all statistics are made up. So I'm 89.2. Look, I think it's impossible to, as many people have said, a version of making, predictions is hard, especially about the future. But I think in terms of, I think roughly 70% of all content will have no humans inside the loop. It will look much more like, say, stock trading looks today. And in fact, in our original 2015 raise deck, we had the New York Stock Exchange 40 years ago and the New York Stock Exchange in 2015 to make that point. The first one, there was loads of people, bits of paper, phones, shouting orders. Today it's all done electronically and with tech. And I think a lot of the mid to lower funnel of advertising will be exactly like that. And then I think 30% of it will be the most incredible AI-empowered storytelling. I personally think 100% of all content will be made either fully or with some AI. And then to what Becky was talking about, I think e-commerce is just going to change beyond all recognition as increasingly it's agentic. And one of our super smart leaders last week, Tash, said this is probably the last human-only Black Friday we're going to see, because and so I think it's easy to sort of have a decent sense of the direction of travel, but A, we will always miss stuff, and B, it's hard to know exactly how fast or how slowly that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. It's really interesting to see how the sort of central flagship content can just be extrapolated out into so many different varieties now and variations that are so much more personalized. It really is changing so fast. So Becky, I wanted to come on and briefly touch on this idea of trust and bias around AI. It's one that I know has been a big sort of project that you've been very central to at Brandtech. So I didn't want to let the opportunity pass us by having you on without touching on this, because it's also something that we have a lot of interest in when we look at the social data at the back end at Pencil. So what are the big risks and misconceptions around AI marketing today when we think about bias and trust around AI?
So yeah, as you said, this became a bit of a mission to kind of lean into what's hard. There are things that people perceive to be very hard about AI, and I think if you want to truly help people scale the use of it, you have to embrace these topics. But I think the biggest misconception is that we're still stuck on legal and responsible AI issues. I think wherever you're positioned today, whether you're super conservative, whether you're very open, there is a way to scale AI today within your belief system. Right now, there's nothing to. So I think the biggest thing I come up against is, well, we can't do X because we, not sure of the legal situation for that, or we haven't yet worked out our responsible AI position on Y. And I actually think that's the biggest blocker, is that we think it's unsolvable, and actually it isn't. We can get there, and like I said, within whatever your framework is. If you don't want to use models that have been trained on open web data, then don't. There are ways to get around any of those barriers.
Yeah, it's something that I think is a big part of scaling up to enterprise level, right? Is understanding, like specific context to each business and how you can have a responsible AI policy, which is obviously something that's very possible. I mean, is anything that you want to add on this topic, David, around responsible AI and putting those kind of policies in place? Is it a blocker or just a hurdle that you need to overcome?
No, look, I mean, I think Becky's done an amazing job leading all of this for us. I would say, over the last 3 or 4 years, I think we've seen a real evolution from, hey, my legal department have told me we'll get fired for using AI, or it's not very good, which is sort of like 3-4 years ago, to, oh, wouldn't it be great to do pilots? Let's do some pilots. And I think we're seeing now, a move out of what was called last week pilot purgatory into, how do we do this at mass scale across the business? I mean, this, in Q1 this year, we created 235,000 pieces of content with Pencil for 3 of the world's top 10 global advertisers. And across that, it was 62% faster, 55% cheaper, and delivered a 40% better ROI. And it was always better, always faster, and always cheaper. And I think all of the people who were sort of maybe 2 years, 3 years ago doing the pilots are like, no, we now need to just scale this everywhere, because if we get there first, it's a huge competitive advantage. And if we don't, we'll be forever trying to play catch up with our competitors.
And you mentioned that we work with some of the top advertisers in the world. Is there anything that successful brands have in common when it comes to these kinds of subjects?
Lots.
Do you want to go, Becky? I don't have to. You go.
So I think there's a number of things. David will have more, but some of them that I think it doesn't matter about sector. Like, common myth would be like highly regulated sectors aren't as far in. I don't find that to be the case at all. I find that they're very used to overcoming the hurdles of constraint, and they're actually very good at this. I think it's more about, it's mandated from the top. There's alignment all the way through the business that Gen AI is going to transform us, and we are going to go and do this now. So we're not piloting, we're not testing. Because when you're in that assessing mode, you're somewhat skeptical. You don't come to it with your mind open, looking for all the places that are ripe for change. You come to it looking for like where could be better. Whereas if you've already bought in, that makes a huge cultural difference. And then there is normally an unreasonable leader somewhere in that business who is bashing down every internal door. So once you find that person, I think then the transformation happens much, much faster, because normally there is advocacy, like really strong advocacy inside the business to move and to change and to overcome challenges. So I'd say there's like talent and leadership similarities for sure around those businesses. David, did you have other things?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It comes from the top, unreasonable marketing leader. I would add, I think they've identified use cases which would be great proof of concept when they're successful. So it's not doing AI for kind of PR or to have shiny objects, it's proving a business case. I think they've got legal, procurement, and finance on board thinking that this is something that can be really game-changing. I think they've typically put in place training programs to get all of their marketeers up to speed. I think they're mandating that their agency partners come to them with AI ideas and solutions rather than hide behind a tree because they don't want to go there. And I think the final one is I think they're building for where they think AI will be in 12 months, not where it is today. I mean, if we'd have been sitting having this conversation 12 months ago, we wouldn't have been going, well, let's make sure we've got amazing video content creators because we're going to be voice to camera with video, aren't we? We'd be kind of, and whereas now that's probably the biggest need. And so I think as you think forward to where's it going to be in 12 months and how do you make sure you build for that?
Yeah. And as you said, it's so difficult to know, right? Like it could go anywhere. So yeah, it's.
Well, actually, you make a good point, Tom, because that's the other thing that I'm seeing is this notion that the landscape is now in perpetual motion. Like there is no steady, no stable.
Right.
So before, change management was about getting from A to B, and we'd predefined B, and we knew where we were going. And now it's just this constant loop of like, you've just deployed it, it's ready to go, and now 3 months later, the world changes again, and the world changes again. And this idea of constant learning, changing, etc. I think that's maybe one of the other similarities is that businesses who are scaling well are realizing that that's going to be a forever state.
Yeah.
So they're starting to invest in a way that enables that.
Yeah. It's quite.
And I think the other one, Tom, is, we talk about whatever your never is, AI is coming for it soon. So we went from the phase it'll never be able to do pack shots, and then it'll never be able to do humans, and then it'll never be able to do video, and then it'll never be able to do voice to camera, and then it could. So whatever we sit here now and go, well, it'll never be able to do this, it's pretty certain that whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year, it will be able to.
Yeah. I don't even know what the nevers would be now. It feels like that's kind of almost understood, isn't it?
It will never be able to instantaneously.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, we'll never be able to instantaneously give you 10 incredible, fully finished TV commercials in 1 minute.
Well, let's see.
It's the next never.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a nice parallel there with the way the technology actually works as well, right? Like learning, constant learning. It's like the way that the models are being deployed now, it is much more of a constant process of updating the context window rather than, one training run that is the be all and end all model. So yeah, it's an exponential for sure. So I've got one last question for you, David, and then I think we've got one. In fact, we've got one from the audience that I'm going to get onto because we are running up against time.
If it's a hard one, it's for Becky.
Okay. All right, so where are we? Let me dig it out.
Where do we get our Wi-Fi in France? That's my question.
Yeah.
I'm super bad on the offices, except the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Other than that, it's great.
Yeah, well, it's
day one.
The joys of live broadcast. When we had Sumuk on, the doorbell went, and he had to go and get answer the door during the stream. So you're not the first. So we've got a question from Olga, who is a marketing director, Olga Alperter, who says, how's the support network internally at organizations changing to support the orchestration of AI tools? I mean, Becky, that maybe feels like one to come to you with.
It's a huge topic actually, and kind of AI culture and community has been something that we've really been leaning into, because one of the byproducts of what is called the kind of shadow AI economy, which is that if a business doesn't provide clear leadership and direction about how they're going to embrace AI, then what happens is people don't just not use AI, they just use it really quietly, under the table. So they've got their own accounts or their own personal profiles, that kind of thing, which is significantly more risk introduced to the business than it would be if you kind of developed a position. But also nobody can talk about it, because it's cheating, right? So now you've got this feeling that like people are using AI, but they don't really share, they don't talk about it. There's no kind of exchanges around great prompts or great workflows or things that are creating massive value for the business. It's all being kind of secret squirreled and kept to one side. So I think not only do you lose on the kind of risk side of things, but you also lose on all the community and the sharing and the learning. And the reason that I think it's so important to get started with AI and just start making and doing and kind of getting out there is because it's not just about the efficiencies and the gains you make in the work. It's that you start exercising the muscle of change, of trying new things, of being experimental. It's that sort of very human side of the learning that is important. And again, if you keep it to one side, you don't ever get to kind of foster that. So I think you lose on just a number of different levels if you don't bring it out into the open, and that culture is huge. Most of AI adoption is about mindset, not really about skill set. It's just about having that curiosity that David talked about, So if you don't foster it out in the open, you can't grow.
Great answer. So we're running up against time. David, have you got time to answer one question from the audience, or have you got to jump?
No, I have. I'm fine.
Okay, wonderful. So another question from Anna Haggerty, who says, looking ahead, how do you see platforms like Pencil evolving to support even deeper collaboration between humans and AI? What features or capabilities should marketers be excited about next? So another test of your predictive powers here, David.
But no, I mean, I think honestly, one of them is just, I'll talk about what we've done recently, and maybe Becky might want to add some stuff about the future, but we were, and I'm pretty sure this is true, we were the first external platform to integrate VO3, we were the first platform to integrate Nano Banana, we've got Sora. So literally, I think one of the things that's amazing, I mean, we always talk about we're not the wave with the surfboard. And the waves are, it's, Google, Gemini, VO, it's ChatGPT, it's Sora, etc. And our job is to make sure that we can, put our clients on those waves with the surfboard that is Pencil. And it's the entire founding ethos of Pencil, but it's also the founding ethos of the Brand Tech Group. In our logo is an ampersand, and it's an ampersand because it comes from a profound belief that open, collaborative models are better than closed ones. So everything we're doing is about that. So in many respects, the answer to what's going to be the best in terms of Pencil for humans is we're just going to make sure that whatever the best models in the world are for creating, you're going to have them. I think the other big and new and exciting one is, hey, you can now make TV commercials. That wasn't a thing. I mean, when Sumukun will talk about the founding of the company, like it was writing e-commerce lines back in 2018, and I think 1 in 10,000 was any good. It now, like pretty much everything it creates is now fantastic, and it can do TV commercials. So it's come on a long way. And then I think the agentic piece, I broke up a little bit. I'm not sure whether Becky got into it, but just the ability to have agentic workflows that are connecting insights into campaign ideas, into initial key visuals, into full AI videos, and doing that at mass scale, I think is just pretty amazing.
100%.
Absolutely. I think just to finish off like that, we have scratched the surface of the AI kind of agentic future, and how we will interoperate with agents, and all of the things that will be possible when you take one intelligent, autonomous or semi-autonomous agent and you connect it to the next and the next and the next. And we've never had a technology that was so aligned to our goals, right? We can align them to process, but not to goals. Like agents gives us the ability to actually just say what we're trying to achieve, and it will help us get there. Like that, I think we just have no concept of how transformative that's going to be.
Definitely. All right, well look, as we think to wrap up then, is there anything that we haven't covered off that you want to mention, that you want to say, anything you're particularly excited about coming up? David, I'll come to you first.
No, I mean, mine would just be a big picture point, which is I think, we're going to live through the most incredible transformation, and it's only just started. The analogy I use is imagine, we're all standing on the side of a hill watching an early attempt at human flight, and someone has this crappy little kind of contraption that they get off the ground for 100 meters before it plummets back down to earth. And I turn to you and I say, one day in the not too distant future, 4 billion people are going to fly around the world on those. There'll be new jobs like pilot and air traffic controller, and all the people in security who take our liquids and put them in little bags and check our passports. The biggest luxury and fashion shopping centers in the world are going to be in the airports of Singapore and Dubai, and you'd be like, don't be stupid. and exactly the same thing is going to happen, except rather than taking 5 decades, it will take a decade. And so we don't know yet exactly what some of those roles are going to be and what's that. But the one thing I think is certain is it's going to be the single biggest change in humanity we've ever seen.
It's quite the note to end on. I mean, Becky, have you got anything better than that to wrap up?
I do not. I have nothing better than that. But I would only say my super practical point is I did this calculation for a couple of clients the other day. If we are looking to transform everything with this technology, and less than 1% of the people you employ are focused on change, we will not extract the maximum. My biggest kind of focus, and I think should be a collective focus for us all, is if the kind of transformation and this world, this AI world that we can't even imagine yet, as David says, is in the future, there is a high likelihood that we have to spend a much bigger percentage of what we currently invest in marketing on being ever changing. And I think until we do that, we won't really extract all the value that's available even today.
Excellent. Brilliant. All right, both. Well, look, it's been great to have you on. Everybody watching, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. I know I certainly have. Very quick reminder, we've got, if you're a Pencil Power user, we've got webinars going on all through this week on the Pencil community, community.trypencil.com. If you're not signed up to the newsletter, make sure you head over to the website and do so. Hit subscribe on LinkedIn because we are here every single Tuesday, live streaming, talking about pencil products, talking about creative, talking about all of the most hot topics in the AI world so that you can keep up to date with what's going on. For this week, that's it. So David, Becky, thanks so much for jumping on. It's been brilliant to have you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks very much. And everybody, we'll see you next week.
Bye.